Do you want to stand with the Blood Angels in their darkest hour and fight beside them against the Tyranid foes or anyone else who stands against them? Well, today we're going to talk about creating a lore-accurate list based on the Devastation of Baal, the book by Guy Haley, and how you can actually implement that on the tabletop and get an army that looks pretty similar to the forces that Dante wielded on Baal in its final hours before it's consumed by the Tyranid threat. So let's dive into that, and we'll start with just some background on the Devastation of Baal. We covered most of that last week, so if you want, you can go check out that video. But for now, let's just do a quick overview just so you understand what we're building. The Devastation of Baal is a really, really famous novel for Blood Angels players. It's kind of the novel that sets the stage for the modern Blood Angels. There are several other novels there, but you get the best picture of who the Blood Angels are and how they function in the Devastation of Baal. You get to see all of the Sons of the Blood, or the Blood Angel successors, as well as the Blood Angels themselves, on display in all of its grandeur. And this is a lot of fun, especially if you're building a lore accurate army list here, because it gives you a lot of leeway to play with. You can involve the Death Company with regular Blood Angels. You can involve some of the successor chapters. So if you wanted to model some of the Marines differently and give them different insignias and different paint schemes, you can. And that's kind of the fun part of using this book as a lore accurate list, because you do get all of that variety that you don't typically get with a lore accurate Legion. You've seen some of the other Legions we've done, and a lot of them are pretty stuck in their ways. The White Scars, you either have speed or you have power, and that's really all you get. So you get Terminators and fast guys. Dark Angels are a little bit more variety, but you still get a lot of things you can work with there. But the Blood Angels typically are pretty straightforward. They do a lot of hard-hitting, forward-moving. They're the shock troops of the Space Marines. And a lot of times they're pretty one-note. They're usually intercessors, assault intercessors, or heavy intercessors is what you tend to see for Blood Angels. But by doing this book, you can get some more variety because there are a lot more things that are on display. And it's something that I'm super, super excited to be able to show you guys and cover. So let's dive into the characters first, and then we'll talk about the main list after that. We can't build a list based on the Devastation of Baal without two key epic characters that play a major role in this story. And that's Commander Dante and Mephiston. Those two kind of just have to be in the list, or we just wasted our time. So they are in there. Obviously, Dante will be our warlord, and it gives us an opportunity to do a lot of really fun stuff there and kind of get a feel for the Blood Angels as a whole, just because those two characters are really two of the cores. Unfortunately, Lamarty's is a big part of the competitive list that you see a lot in tournaments, stuff like that, but he specifically wasn't here during the Devastation of Baal. He was off on Cadia as it fell. So we kind of have to just leave him out, unfortunately. If you do want to sub him in, you can, just to get yourself a little bit more competitive list. From what I've seen, he does help a lot on the competitive scene for Blood Angels. Those are the epic characters we have. We do have several other characters that we're going to field. I have the list over here to the left just to make sure you guys can actually get the correct information and make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. On top of Dante and Mephiston, we have an apothecary. We have a captain with jump pack. We have a chaplain. We have a Death Company captain and a sanguinary priest. So yes, I'm aware we have multiple captains in there. Like I said, because it's the Siege of Baal, we have a lot of captains running around. So having more than one captain running a couple different units isn't weird, as long as you're focusing on the Devastation of Baal. It would be a little unnatural to have multiple captains in a single company otherwise, but you had a lot of specialized units being run by specialized captains during the Devastation of Baal. So you're able to do that a little bit smoother on this type of list than any of the other ones that we've talked about. Those are the different characters that we have. Next, we're going to talk about the actual units in the list, and we'll also refer back to our heroes to talk about who's assigned where. Like we just talked about, we have several characters on this list to give us a bunch of different buffs and strengths and things like that, and lead specialized units to really help and make sure we're accomplishing what we want to accomplish. So first off is Commander Dante. He will obviously be with the Sanguinary Guard. The Sanguinary Guard is his bodyguards, pretty much. So there's no reason to not put them together. It wouldn't be a lore accurate list without it. So that combination is the pretty obvious choice there with the Sanguinary Guard and Commander Dante. Mephiston is a lone operative in the game, so he'll be running around kind of by himself. Next, we'll have the Apothecary and put him with the Assault Intercessor squad. That's just kind of a pretty classic combination there. Then you have the Captain with Jump Pack, put him with Assault Intercessors with Jump Pack to really smooth that combination out. And then we have some Blade Guard veterans, some Death Company Marines, and Death Company with Jump Packs. The Death Company with Marines will be with the Death Company Captain. And then we have the Death Company with Jump Packs, who will be running on their own. I also mentioned we have a Sanguinary Priest. He'll be paired with one of the other units, probably the Blade Guard veterans, just to give them a little bit more buffing strength as well. And then that makes up the core of our list. The only group that I've doubled up on is the Death Company Marines. You can either run them in 2 groups of 5 or 1 block of 10. Typically, especially if you're pairing them with a captain, I'd probably run it in a block of 10 and just get your kind of horde mob there to give you a little bit more core strength, while some of your jump pack units are flying around doing things. Next, we're going to talk about the vehicles involved and why we brought some of them there and a few who's going to be transported where. So we have several vehicles in this list as well to give us a little bit of active movement and some heavy punching. The first one is a Redemptor Dreadnought. There are multiple references to Dreadnoughts in the story, and you can do pretty much any combination of Dreadnoughts. The Redemptor is just the strongest right now, but you could do a Ballista, you could do any of the other Dreadnoughts as well if you want to keep them more themed. You do have a lot of different Dreadnoughts that you can use, and they're pretty interchangeable on this list. None of them is mentioned by actual model. They're just referenced as Dreadnoughts. So feel free to use whichever one you want to maximize this list as well. And then on top of that, we have the Baal Predator. This is a tank that isn't actually mentioned in the lore itself or in the novel, but in other bits of lore, it's usually referenced as being a predator that's typically accompanying Dante and his units. So it's safe to assume that the Baal Predator would be on this field. Like I said, this novel is a little bit more character-centric, so it focuses in on little things. So the bigger tanks won't be mentioned, but it's a pretty obvious choice to have on the field of battle in this unit. Plus, they're pretty fun ones to field, and they look really cool. So we included it here. You can also change this out for a Gladiator Lancer, but that increases the cost quite a bit. The Baal Predator is actually quite a bit cheaper than the Gladiator Lancer is. which is one of the other big reasons I went with it. And then you have a Land Raider and an Impulsor to transport troops. Those are for your intercessors, whether it be your Death Company Marines, who I would put in the Land Raider just because it holds a little bit more, and you'll be able to move them up to the front lines and send out mobs pretty fast. And then the Impulsor can carry an Assault Intercessor Squad or your Blade Guard veterans, depending on how you want to treat them. I'd probably go with the Blade Guard veterans and then use my Assault Intercessors to screen my backline. But like I said, that's up to you guys how you use those. They can transport what you need where you need it. And the Blood Angels are quite famous for using Land Raiders and transports to quickly move up and then slam into their enemies. So using them that way is a very lore accurate way to do it. And then finally, you do need the Blood Angels upgrade kits as well. So we'll include those in the list so that we can talk about how that works. Next, we're going to talk about how much this all costs and how much it'll cost for you to field this army from scratch. Now, I know a lot of Space Marine players that have more than one Legion tend to have a lot of extras. I have 2 full Space Marine Legions, which you can kind of see. Fortunately, the white scars are white, but the Dark Angels down here are pretty hard to see because I don't have a light on them right now. But I have those 2 Legions, and I still have probably about 1,000 points of Space Marines left that are probably going to turn into Raven Guard. Maybe Blood Angels, we'll see. I have a Raven Guard character, which is why I'm leaning that direction. I don't have any Blood Angels characters. But I do have actually a lot of the units on this list. So we'll see how that pans out. But this next cost will be how much it'll cost you from square one. Okay, so with cost, as you guys know, we kind of break it down into 3 separate categories. We do MSRP or retail just based off of Warhammer.com. And then we do the value cost, which is Wargame Portal and Amazon, which is where I try and find all of these units and base the price off of those. And then we finally have the fluffy cost. Fluffy cost tends to be using Horus Heresy models or third-party models to get you even more of that Legion feel. And it's always the most expensive option. But that's if you want to make it look really good, here's how much it's going to cost. Please keep in mind there have been a lot of price changes for Games Workshop over the last several months and probably will be upcoming as well. So exact prices will vary. You can actually even see it in the list that I'll have attached below that includes the unit costs, so you guys can kind of gauge that. If you click through some of the other Legions, you'll see there's a couple different costs on these units. I try and keep it updated, but now this spreadsheet's getting a little bit big, so I might have missed some. And then on top of that, the army list is below as well. It'll be attached in the description, so make sure you check that out. Feel free to use it. And if you have any comments or questions, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We've got a lot of really cool stuff coming this next year, and it'll be a lot of fun for you guys to join us for that. And make sure you ring that little bell so you get notified when we have new videos coming up. If you don't, you may or may not see our videos coming quickly. I try and keep them coming every Wednesday, but without a little bell, you may not be notified of them until you have to go into your actual subscription section. So first off, let's talk MSRP. MSRP, if you're buying this straight from Games Workshop at full price, you're going to be looking at $1,262.50. Not the cheapest Legion we've ever done, also not the most expensive, but it's pretty good. It's going to be a little pricey. The places you get hit the worst will be in your vehicles, obviously, but a lot of your units are actually not bad priced. Your characters can be a little bit heavier as well. Blood Angel specific characters tend to be more expensive than just the regular characters, but that's just what it's like in Warhammer 40k right now. So I would not suggest doing that, but this is one of the first times that the value cost doesn't actually save you that much money. It saves you about $150, unfortunately. So at all of the retail vendors and with all of the discounts you get there, It results in roughly a 15% discount across the board and is $1,116.47. So about $150. Not great. It's better than nothing. That $150 may go to some custom stuff or your codex or whatever else you need to make this army really run well. So with all of that said, I always suggest going with the retailers or your local game store. You will always get a better deal that way. Especially with a list like this, I would check your local game store. Some of these units aren't units that are commonly used in Space Marines armies currently, so you may be able to pick them up for cheaper because they're trying to get rid of them. It's also kind of hard to find some of the Blood Angels units. They're very popular because they just had a codex release a couple months ago. That also being said, with this value cost, I did not include combo boxes or launch boxes because I can't guarantee that they'll exist 6 months from now or be able to be found 6 months from now. And I don't want to let these numbers be too off because of that. In this case, I absolutely would suggest the value boxes like Combat Patrols or the Launch Box, because you'll get a lot of these models more quickly and in bundles where it'll cost you maybe $200 to $300 instead of $500 to $600. So I would absolutely suggest that route if you're looking into this army from scratch. Like I said, it's not actually put into these numbers just because that price wildly varies and availability also wildly varies. Now, finally, we're going to talk the fluffy cost. The fluffy cost is a lot of fun because we get to pull different units than we actually do normally. This fluffy list allows us to bring in a lot more of the really fun designs of Horus Heresy that are a little bit more ornate and are very specifically Blood Angels. And that was something that was actually very common in the Horus Heresy stuff, so there's a lot of fluff here. The fluffy list is going to cost $1,567.75. That does include anything that can be discount retailer being discount retailer. Unfortunately, a lot of the Blood Angels models specifically that you're pulling from Horus Heresy can't actually be transferred or purchased through a lot of the value retailers or your LGS. A lot of them are online only, which does drive up the cost quite a bit. You'll see that hit coming in the Death Company Captain, the Sanguinary Priest, your Salt Intercessor Squad, your Salt Intercessor with jump packs, your Sanguinary Guard has a fluffier model, your Death Company Marines, and your Death Company with jump pack Marines are the places that you're going to get hit the most. You could also go with a 30k Dreadnought, but because we're playing 40k, a 30k Dreadnought wouldn't actually make sense. So I did not include that in the fluffy list. You can if you want to and do a Contemptor style instead of the Redemptor style. But like I said, that's up to you. I wouldn't personally, just because it does take it a little bit more out of the lore accurate style. But that's where you're looking at cost-wise. Next, we're going to talk about some modeling and painting you can do to look really cool, and then we'll wrap it up with the tactics, so detachment and stuff and deployment style, stuff like that. Okay, so let's talk painting and modeling. Like I said, the nice part with Devastation of Baal is you have a lot of variety. There's a couple points where it references at least 30 chapters of the Blood Angels kin being on Baal and Baal Secundus and Baal Primary. So you can really do whatever you want. As long as you stick to some of the known Blood Angel successor chapters, you will be fine. Even some of the banished ones and the ones that are semi-chaos leaning all actually join in this fight. So you can do what you want to do. You can do Flesh Tearers, which is probably my favorite Blood Angel successor. You can do just generic Blood Angels. You do have Death Company in here as well, so you'll need to represent them in the black armor instead of the red. You can do pretty much anything you want. There's the Knights of the Blood. I remember there's a bunch of them that just have name drops throughout the book that aren't coming to mind currently. But yeah, like I said, pretty much any Dark or Blood Angel successor is on Baal for this fight. So you can even do specific units from specific successor chapters all fighting together, because that does happen. Originally, at the start of the fight, Dante tries to keep them under their chains of command, but as the fight quickly devolves, he just starts using and maneuvering specific units where they need to go to give him a little bit more cohesive movement. And it really does work. He gets a lot of that combined strengths, and actually does succeed a lot in saving Baal, even though it does cost him a lot. There's several chapters that are completely just deleted from history by the Tyranids in this fight. But like I said, that does allow you to pretty much have fun with it. Just do a bunch of different successor chapters and mix them up in the units so that each unit specifically belongs to a different successor chapter. If you want, you can do whatever you want. That's the big perk of using a book like this as the lore accurate basis. So do what you think is best here. I would leave the Dreadnought as Blood Angels, and obviously you'll have anything attached to Dante as that way as well. And Death Companies have a very specific paint scheme that you have to use that is standard for pretty much any Blood Angel successor chapter as well. The only thing that really changes is the logo on their pauldron that represents their chapter. So make sure you kind of stick to those little rules. But if you're also doing some fun modeling, use Tyranid bits for this to make it look like they're on a bloody, ripped apart Tyranid battlefield, and you can have a lot of fun there as well. Baal also is a very red planet, as what it's known for. So red dirt and things like that, just to help you a little bit more with your basing materials as well. Now, finally, let's talk about the tactics that we'll be using on this, and then we'll wrap it up with some final thoughts and get you guys on your way so you can get back to your 40k games. And like I always say, if you do end up building this army, please send me pictures. You can do that here or through any of my social media. Tag me in it or just send it to me through DMs. I'd love to see this kind of stuff, and can't wait to see what you guys do with the Blood Angels as well. Now that we've talked about the units we are going to have on the field, how we're going to paint them, everything we're going to do to get this game ready, let's talk about how we're going to deploy them onto the actual battlefield. First off is the detachment. That's kind of the key essence of how we're going to play this. I went with the Angelic Host. It's got a lot of really fun things you can do, especially with your jump pack units and your Sanguinary Guard and Dante as well. So I'm going to stick with that. The other ones kind of limit you a little bit. They do have a really cool Death Company detachment that does a lot of stuff, but unfortunately, because we're using a mixed unit for this, it doesn't really make sense to use that Death Company detachment that'll only work for a few of our units. So I went with the Angelic Host just to keep it simple. Tactically, the Blood Angels are a very push forward attack, although they are very tactical. So you should probably leave at least one unit back to screen before pushing forward, using your vehicles and your jump packs to quickly take objectives and then hold them while the rest of your army filters forward. This would be your best bet. If you're wanting to get very lore accurate with the Devastation of Baal and you're playing Tyranids, you're going to be playing a little bit more defensively, because you'll probably be playing with some rules about having your deployment zone objective being a landing pad or something like that you need to hold to help everyone escape successfully and have some final control. But if you're not playing that way and you're just playing Blood Angels, it's a very push forward quickly and then fight, flank, things like that. They're kind of similar to the White Scars. They don't move as fast as the White Scars do, but they have some of the same principles where they get up close and quickly maneuver around you to cause issues and keep you from getting objectives that you're hoping to get. So I would definitely use that style and strategy for your Blood Angels in this fight, and it'll allow you to score a lot of points very quickly, as well as separate out units. By separating out units, they're easier to kill individually than they are in bulk. You also have less threat of return fire if you can carve away little pieces. That's going to be a lot of the goal of the Blood Angels, is to break up bulks of armies, especially with hordes like the Tyranids. So now that we've talked tactics and things like that, let's wrap up with some final thoughts and get you guys back to playing the tabletop as this year wraps up. And we actually have a double feature. So this one's coming out today on Tuesday, so that we can have one on Thursday to kick off the new year as well. So I will see you guys there after these final thoughts. Thank you guys for joining us on this really fun discussion of how we build a lore-accurate army based on the Devastation of Baal. If you've enjoyed this, make sure you like and subscribe, and ring that little bell so you get notified anytime we have new stuff coming out. Because of the amount of content on YouTube, if you don't ring that little bell, we found that you don't always get notified of any of the cool stuff we have coming out. And that's true of any YouTube channel that you follow. Unless you watch them almost daily, you will not be notified. Just the way the algorithm is working right now. And if you've enjoyed this lore accurate list and you want to see more of them, let us know in the comments below which units you'd like to see. We've done a bunch of Space Marines, and we have another one of my factions coming up, which will be our first Xenos here in a few weeks. But I want to know what you guys would like to see in the lore accurate lists. It's a lot of fun to dive into things, and a lot of times your comments below will point me in a direction that I hadn't even thought to go. I'm kind of like the Praetorians. The Salamanders and Blood Angels weren't ones I was planning on doing as quickly, but it's been a lot of fun to dive into these lists that you guys want to see as well. So, like I said, let me know in the comments below what you guys want to see, and I'll tackle them as quickly as we can. So, my final thoughts on this list are pretty simple. I really enjoyed building it. It looks like it'll be a lot of fun on the tabletop as well. And because of the novel we use to baseline all of this combination, we do get a lot of liberties that we can do that we probably wouldn't be able to do if we had based it on a different novel. It's one that I think will be a lot of fun. It'll be pretty competitive too. There are several traits that will make it pretty competitive, and I would love to see what you guys can do with it on the tabletop as well. Please let me know in the comments below if you try this out, or if you're building it, send me some pictures. I would love to see it. And stay tuned this week. We do have kind of a fun episode later this week to kick off the new year and the new season with us. And then we'll do the Leagues of Votann after that in the next couple of weeks as kind of a birthday present to me. It's my Legion, or not my Legion, it's my other army I use. I do have the White Scars and Dark Angels that are kind of my legions. And then I have my Leagues of Votann that I also deploy on the field when I feel like it, because they're fun. So we'll tackle those next, and I will see you guys later. Bye.